Hello friends, in this video we learn how to control 220 volt magnetic contactor with the help of 24 volt DC proximity sensor. You can also control any of the 3-phase motor by using this connection. In this video we learn all components working and connection practically. So please watch video till end. After watching this video, your all doubt will clear about proximity sensor connection and relay connection. So let's start and first understand how our starter works. Now, proximity sensor operate, and relay operate, magnetic contactor also operate, and we can control any of the load by this magnetic contactor. In this video we control bulb. You can also control any of the 3-phase motor with magnetic contactor. Now first understand which component is required for this control wiring. Now first required proximity sensor. In this video we use NPN type proximity sensor. You can watch here, this sensor is operating voltage is 6 volt to 36 volt DC. You can watch here, this sensor operate on 6 volt to 36 volt DC supply. This sensor is 3-wire proximity sensor. In this sensor we have 3 wire which is black, red and blue. In this sensor, red wire is for positive 24 volt supply, blue wire is for 0 volt DC supply. This is a positive wire which we connect 24 volt DC supply, and blue wire is 0 volt DC supply which we connect through SMPS, and black wire is output wire. Because of this sensor is NPN type sensor, so when sensor operate we get negative supply or 0 volt supply. If our sensor is P and P type sensor, then sensor if operate we get positive supply, but this sensor is NPN sensor, so when sensor operate we get 0 volt supply in black wire. So NPN sensor output is 0 volt. Remind it. Because our sensor operating voltage is 24 volt DC, so we required 24 volt DC pla relay. In this video we use 11 pin pla relay. You can watch here, this relay also known as 3CO relay, because by using this relay we can control 3 common, 3 NC and 3 NO terminal. If you want to learn 11 pin pla relay working and connection, we already make video and link provides in description. Please watch. In this relay we have 3 common, 3 NC and 3 NO terminal. For overview, first understand which terminals is given in this relay. In this relay we need to provide 24 volt DC supply in their coil. 2 and 10 number point is relay coil, in which we need to connect 24 volt DC. 2 for positive supply and 10 for negative supply. Remind it, 2 for positive and 10 for negative. In this relay we have 3 common, that means 1 is common terminal and 3 is a NO with 1 and 4 is NC terminal. 6 is a common terminal, 7 is NO with 6 and 5 is NC. 11 is common point, 9 is NO point and 8 is NC point. You can watch on pla relay top. As we know our sensor is 24 volt DC, so for 24 volt DC we connect one SMPS. This SMPS is 220 volt to 24 volt DC converting SMPS. In input supply we need to connect to 220 volt AC supply and it's convert to 24 volt DC supply. And we required one contactor. This contactor is 220 volt AC supply contactor, because our load will control through contactor. We can also control any of the 3-phase motor by this contactor. This contactor operating voltage is 220 volt AC. That means for operating this contactor we need to connect phase and neutral in contactor coil. Now let's start control wiring. First we need to connect 220 volt AC supply to SMPS input terminal. So we connect a phase wire to SMPS first phase terminal and neutral wire to SMPS neutral terminal, and third terminal for earthing, and fifth terminal is 24 volt positive supply, and fourth terminal is for 0 volt DC supply. So we connect a phase and neutral to SMPS 220 volt input supply. Now we get 24 volt DC supply in SMPS output terminal. Now first connect sensor input connection. In sensor, red wire is for positive 24 volt supply. So we connect SMPS positive to sensor positive terminal. This is for positive terminal, and blue wire is for 0 volt DC supply. So we connect blue wire in SMPS 0 volt supply. Now sensor input connection is done. As we know, our sensor is NPN type sensor. So when our sensor operate, we get 0 volt DC supply. Now when our sensor operate, we get 0 volt supply in black wire. So for operating PLA relay, we need to connect a 0 volt and 24 volt DC in relay coil. Now you can watch here, this is the 10 number point and this is the 2 number point. So 2 number point is for positive and 10 number is for 0 volt. So we connect a sensor output black wire relay 10 number point. So when sensor operate, PLA relay coil gets 0 volt in 10 number point. As we know, for operating relay, we need to connect 0 volt and 24 volt DC. So we connect 0 volt from proximity sensor. Now we connect a positive wire from SMPS positive terminal to relay 2 number point. So we connect a positive 24 volt supply directly and 0 volt from proximity sensor. So when proximity sensor operate, our PLA relay operate manually. First check how our relay operate. We feed PLA relay and check how our relay operate. Okay, now we start power supply. When proximity sensor operate, our relay should operate. Now when proximity sensor operate, our relay operate, but relay operate manually. So for operating PLA relay permanently, we need to provide a holding supply. So as you provide holding in contactor, same connection for relay. So now first understand how to provide holding, because when proximity sensor operate, relay coil gets 0 volt. So we connect 10 number 0 volt 1 connector to any of the relay common point. So we use 11 number common point for holding supply, because 11 number is common point. So we connect one connector from 10 number 0 volt to 11 number common terminal. So we connect one connector from 10 to 11. 11 is common point. Now for holding, we need to connect a 0 volt to NO point, which is 9 number point. 9 number point is NO. So when relay operate, NO makes NC and our relay get hold. So for holding, we need to connect a 0 volt supply to relay 9 number point. So we connect one connector directly from SMPS 0 volt to 9 number NO terminal. So we connect one connector from SMPS 0 volt to 9 number relay point. Now we connect one connector, because our sensor gets 0 volt to relay coil, and we connect this coil to 11 number common point, and we connect a 0 volt in 9 number point. So when our relay operate, NO makes NC and our relay hold permanently. And make sure all connections should be full tight. So this is our holding process is done. Now when our proximity sensor operate, then our relay operate permanently. So this is our holding process is now done. Now when our relay operate, contactor should operate. Now for operating contactor, we need to connect a phase and neutral to contactor coil. So we connect a neutral directly to the contactor A1 terminal, and phase gives through relay common and NO point. Now many people has question, our relay coil is 24 volt and how to connect to 220 volt supply for operating contactor. So we can use any of the voltage from common NO and NC. It does not connect any of connection to the relay coil. So relay coil is 24 volt and we connect 220 volt supply to common point. So we use one number common point for phase connection and 1 and 3 is a NO terminal. So when relay operate, NO makes NC and contactor operate. First we connect a neutral wire directly to contactor A1 terminal. Now for phase connection, we connect a phase wire directly to the MCB. First we connect one connector phase wire. This is for operating contactor coil. Now we connect a phase wire. We use one number common point. Now one number common point connection should be tight, and 1 and 3 is a NO point. When relay operate, NO makes NC and one supply comes from 3 number point and operate contactor coil. Now 1 number continuous supply comes. Now when relay operate, we get supply from 3 number point, so we connect one connector from 3 number point and connect to the contactor A2 number coil. Now when relay operate, NO makes NC, also contactor operate. So we connected this connector to contactor A2 point. Now first when proximity sensor operate, relay operate, and relay operate, NO makes NC and our contactor also operate. Now this is a simple connection to operate contactor. Now if you want to control any of the motor or any of the bulb, so you need to connect a power supply. So we connect a phase and neutral in this MCB and connect contactor L1 and L2 terminal, phase in for L1 and neutral in L2 number point. And when contactor operate, this supply comes here. Phase we connect a bulb, coil and neutral in this coil. If you want to control any of the 3-phase motor, you need to connect a phase RYB in contactor power terminal. Now we check how our control wiring operates. Now when proximity sensor operate, our relay will operate, and relay will operate, contactor also operate, and when contactor operate, our load operate. Now proximity sensor operate, relay operate, contactor operate, and our load operate. You can control any of the 3-phase motor by using this connection. In this connection we not use any of the push button. If you want to use any of the push button, you can connect it easily. Now first when proximity sensor operate, relay operate, contactor operate, and our load also operate. So I hope you understand control wiring of this connection. Hope you like this video. If you like, please like button and subscribe our channel. For today's enough. We'll meet next video. Thanks for watching.